Welcome to the Lessons for Luca podcast. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled that you're here. And I'm incredibly grateful that we're on this journey and on this discovery together. I am Michael DeSanti. I'm an author. I am a men's life coach for over 15 years. I'm a transformational trainer. And most importantly, I'm a husband and a father. I'm Luca's dad. And this is a journey for me in this new journey of fatherhood. And to be able to, I had this really romantic idea for when my son was born, that I was going to journal every day and document what I was feeling and experiencing and how he was growing. And then he was born, and it was like a fire hydrant to the face. I don't think I wrote anything down in a journal once. And now that he's past year one, I've been, contemplating and mulling over this idea of creating a podcast that captures and articulates and demonstrates what my son's father, where he was at the time, what his experience was, what his philosophy was, and using these episodes and using this podcast as a compilation and an anthology for my son, that I can pass down these lessons of what I've learned, what I've coached and taught, what I've experienced. And in the process of doing that for my son, there's a part of me that inevitably this could benefit other men that may be struggling or lost or confused or need guidance. And so by creating this for my son, there's a value here, I think, for so many of us. And this is my effort and attempt to compile and document and create this anthology for my son. When he was born, this was my father at the time. This was my father's philosophy. This was my father's values. And in doing so, we could leave a blueprint not only for my son, but also for other men that are in the need of guidance right now. And I've been in this coaching space for 15 years, and I've worked with thousands of men, and there's some simple philosophies and some things that are simply classic, that are timeless, that will inevitably add value to all of our collective lives. And that's what I want to capture. That's what I want to document. That's what I want to create as an anthology for my boy. And even with that all being said, I still confront all the same limiting narratives and limiting beliefs and obstacles and self-sabotage that everyone encounters. Just what the world needs, another podcast, right? Who am I to create this? Or I don't know the first thing. In full transparency, I've been on 100 podcasts. I don't know the first thing about producing a podcast. I don't know the first thing about how to make this polished and work, but that's going to be part of the journey. And that's actually a huge lesson that I want to teach my son, is that don't wait for everything to be perfect. Don't wait for all your considerations and all your circumstances to iron themselves out. Don't wait for everything to be optimum. It's never going to be. But if there's a value there, follow the value. If you have a commitment to value, a commitment to impact, a commitment to positively contributing and impacting people's lives, take the action. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to feel perfect. It's not going to be clear miles and miles down the road. But if it's valuable, commit to it. Imperfect action will beat perfect inaction 100% of the time. And as we take that imperfect action and we stay committed to it, and we commit to creating a skill set and refining our craft, we find that in building that skill set, in building that knowing how-ness, we polish our rough edges. We learn as we go. The journey shapes our character. And that all comes from a commitment to value. None of this feels perfect to me. None of this is laid out. I am willing to be uncomfortable. I'm willing to develop a skill set, to be unpolished. And in that willingness to grow and learn, I could develop a skill set that creates value. No matter where I go, I won't ever lose that value. I won't ever lose that skill set. And that's a huge lesson that I want my son to know. It's a huge lesson that I try to attempt day after day on macro levels and on micro levels, that not every I is going to be dotted, not every T is going to be crossed. But if there's value there, commit to it. If it's impactful, commit to it. If it will shape your reality in a way that's aligned to your inner value, your inner world, your inner commitments, then take the action. The path will become clear as we summon the courage to walk forward. And I want my son to know that. I want men to know that, especially men that tend to live in their minds and live in their heads and look at life as, this chess match that I have to figure out, and I have to know every answer before I ask any questions, and I have to know the next step before I even take it. That's not life. Life requires courage. Life requires commitment. Life will meet your commitment halfway. But we have to step into that unknown. We have to face that fear. We have to overcome that limiting belief or those limiting narratives that contain us and trap us and domesticate us. There is no perfect time. There never will be. I've never met a friend, a client, someone I've worked with on this journey of discovery, on this journey of healing. I've never met anyone who said, I feel like I'm ahead of schedule on all this. Never. Not in decades of doing this. I've never heard anyone say, yeah, I'm ahead of schedule in my healing journey. People always feel, no matter, even if they're in their teens, in their early 20s, like, I feel like I wasted so much of my life. I feel like I'm behind. That's okay. That's natural. Step forward and advance anyway. If there's value there, if you have a greater commitment there, that value will have us move through the discomfort to generate something exceptional, to generate something beautiful. And there is no perfect moment. I always live by, the perfect time to plant a tree for shade was 10 years ago. The second best time is right now. So take that action, but make sure that it's not an action out of scarcity or out of fear, that it's an action out of value. It's an action out of commitment. And I want my son to know that. And I also want to be transparent and I want to explain, why am I doing this and what will this be? Why do I think you should listen to this? Why should you tune in? Why should you be a part of this journey? And this is really for an audience of one. This is really for an audience for my son, that this can live on as a legacy. But by you being here, we could grow value for all of us. So what this is that volume of value from a father to his son. What are those lessons? What are the principles and the philosophy that I want my son to know? What do I want to pass on? What do I want to anthologize in this moment of time? And what this podcast is and what it will be, and as it evolves and as it manifests, is I want to address, ask, answer, and discover along the way. I want to ask and answer two questions over and over again. And the first question is, what does it mean to be a good man? And I want my answers and my philosophy to be solidified so that my son knows This is what his father believes and knows in his heart what it means to be a good man. And the second question is, what does it mean to live a good life? I can't imagine two better questions to ask and answer over and over and over again until they simply become my demonstration to my son and my demonstration to the world and the world around me, to my relationships, to my community, to my work, to my inner world, to my outer world. What does it mean to be a good man, and what does it mean to live a good life? And the value here and the reason here is that if my son can know that, if we can know that, that's something that no one can ever take away from him. That's something that no one could ever steal or rob from him, because it'll be within him and demonstrated from his father, demonstrated from other men that he respects and honors and wants to match and mirror and mimic. And that's really what this podcast is going to be about. It's going to be this discovery and this evolution of where I'm at this stage of fatherhood, of manhood, of husbandhood. And as my son comes into his own, that he has something that has captured what his father wants him to know. And I'm excited about it. I'm nervous about it. I am developing a deeper level of courage and authenticity because of it. You know, it's so common to say like having children changes everything, and I feel that's true and not true. I think what it's done for me is it's reprioritized my priorities. It's required that I alter and adapt and adjust some of my bandwidth, some of my capacity to focus on what matters and let go of what doesn't, to control what I can control and to relinquish what I can't. And what that has done for me is that has polished and honed my attention more accurately. That as I've developed this nucleus in my world, which is me and my wife and my son, that they consistently, constantly, day after day, get the lion's share of my attention. That I'm always serving this nucleus, that I'm always pouring into this cup. And if there's leftover energy, so be it. But to polish and hone and make more accurate my energy and my attention and my love, that's what fatherhood has adjusted for me. And that's what I want to capture here. What this podcast will not be is it's going to be a bit contrarian, because what I won't do, what I promise I won't do, is put an algorithm over value. This won't be about outrage. This won't be about clicks. This won't be about likes and shares. Like, this matters to an audience of one, like I said. And so I won't do anything to just manipulate an algorithm, or from another perspective, let an algorithm manipulate me. This is between me and my son, a father and his son. So the algorithm and the clicks and the likes and the shares and all that we're so conditioned to outrage and to scarcity and clickbait and whatever, gets promoted, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in feeding some algorithm that has no bottom. I'm interested in feeding my son's soul and spirit and allowing him to understand his own authenticity and what it means to be a good man and to live a good life. So I won't be the common influencer or whatever you want to say. I'm not doing this for any of that. And I think, and I hope, it is my hope, and I may be accurate or inaccurate, but I hope that that's refreshing. I hope that that gives you more of a reason to engage and to be part of this journey as a process and a place to actually pause all of that outrage and stimulation and just waste of energy, and to actually have a place that you could come and gain insight or gain validation, gain some wisdom and gain some blueprint and a way to navigate. Because so many of our men today are lacking that. I think we've got to start to be honest about in our current culture, and for so many reasons that we'll address as we go through this journey, there is the reality that men today are struggling, that they're lonelier than ever, they feel lost, they're distracted, they lack purpose, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And if we go online and we keep feeding this untamable beast of an algorithm, most influencers of men, or I should say influencers of lost men, they know that there's this void in a man's heart today. They know that men feel lost. And the promotion is, in order to fill that void, just seek after material and seek after misogyny. And that sells. Make a ton of money, be flashy, flash your life on the internet, worship materialism. And in that worshiping of materialism, you'll fill up that void. And get as many women as you can, influence your superiority or your dominance over women. Like, this is actually what young, lost men and boys are actually promoted, conditioned day after day after day to think that that is what is going to fill that void in their heart. I think it's dangerous. I think it's going to leave us more lost. And I think that many men will actually accomplish those things, and that void in them will never go away. I've seen it over and over again. And we're in this time and in this discourse now where that is really taking root in our cultural narrative, in our cultural lexicon. We're seeing young boys assert this overcorrection and this this actual overcorrection of lack of self-esteem. And it's having boys feel lost. It's having men feel lost because now I have to keep up this image. I have to keep up this facade. And what this is going to be about, what my approach is, what my philosophy is, I admit, I argue it is the slower route. It's the less sexy route. It's the less shiny route. But that void in a man's heart will never be filled up with material and misogyny. That void in a man's heart will and can only be filled with building character and strengthening quality relationships. That's it. But it takes time. It takes mastery. It takes developing a skill set. It takes an understanding of yourself, of the world around you, of the value of connection, the value of relationships, the ability to see who am I in this ecosystem and cosmos of my life. How do I show up where my character leads the way? How do I show up where my fear and shame are leading the way? My unconsciousness is leading the way. What am I going after out of fear and scarcity, out of immediacy because I want it right now? Or what am I willing to spend years and decades on of mastery and self-awareness and self-mastery so that when I get to that mountaintop of my life, my character is intact. My relationships are strong. They're impenetrable. The answer to the void is always the same two answers, but we approach it from 1,000 different directions, but it's always the same two answers. Build character, strengthen quality relationships. And that's what I want this journey to be about. What does it mean to be a good man? What does it mean to live a good life? How do we build character? How do we strengthen quality relationships? That's it. I say the same thing from 1,000 different angles, day after day after day, to hundreds and thousands of men, year after year after year. But there's so many ways to approach that. And like I said before, it's not the sexy way, but it's the sustainable way. It's not the way that gets thousands of clicks online, but it does touch a man's heart in a particular way. And that's what I want to demonstrate here. That's what I want to provide here. That's what I want to encourage here, because in the culture we're in the time that we're in, it's critical that we celebrate good men. It's a critical time to celebrate good men. They're here. They're among us. If I hear more and more like, where are all the good men out there? They're everywhere. It's time to celebrate them. It's time to incentivize them. It's time to allow them to speak up out of the goodness of their own hearts, out of the goodness of their own demonstration. But we've got this interesting time where it's the lower angels in us that's being incentivized. It's the lower angels in us that's being celebrated. It's the lower angels in us that we're saying this is the way to go, and at the end of it, that's how you win. And I have no offense, no argument against seeking wealth and seeking relationships, but do it with your character intact. Do it slowly and sustainably so that, again, when you get to that mountaintop, your character is stronger, that the journey up to the summit is what shaped you. There is no hack, no fast way up, no bypass to doing deep work and understanding yourself in this journey. So seek all the wealth you want, but keep your character intact along the way. Seek all the relationships you want, but make sure they're tempered with humility and with patience and with love and with understanding and with quality and value. And as we do that, even though I know and understand that it's a slower route, it's the route that works, it's sustainable. All of us have to close our own eyes at night. No one can close them for you. Only you can close your own eyes at night. And I want to make sure that when you close your eyes at night, you feel good about who you are. You feel good about the work that you've done. You feel good about the value that you have contributed to your life and the lives around you, to your nucleus and to the world. And this is going to be that quest. This is going to be that quest that we allow the journey to shape us into being a good man. And I think it's JFK who said, I've met a lot of great men in my life, but I haven't met a lot of good men. And it's time that we value and celebrate what it means to be a good man. And in our quest to become a great man, don't forget to be a good man first. Make sure that your values and your philosophy and your presence and your power and humility is tempered, so that your feet are on the ground, that your heart is centered, that your mind is clear. In that quest to be a great man, don't forget to be a good man first. And this is that quest. This is that time that we get to blueprint and detail for ourselves internally what works and what doesn't, what's effective, what's ineffective, what to double down on and what to let go of. And I'm excited to be here with you. I'm excited that you're here. I'm excited to be a father. I'm excited to be a husband. I'm excited for the opportunity to do the work that I do. It doesn't mean it's not scary. It doesn't mean I'm not afraid. It doesn't mean I'm not nervous. It just means that I have a belief that there's value here. And in that belief, I'm eternally grateful that you're here with me, that we dance in this realm of knowing and not knowing, and we figure it out as we go along the way. So thanks for being here. And until we see each other again, be a good man, live a good life, and determine each of those for yourself.